What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I've got a very, very fascinating news article for you guys today. We've been hearing this argument here for, I don't know, it's kind of an ancillary argument. It's not really the main argument. The main argument against what Doge is doing at this point is, well, it's Elon Musk. He's an evil, rich billionaire. He's the richest man in the world. And there's zero transparency, even though everything, as far as we can tell, is some of the most transparency we've gotten from the federal government ever. Everything that they're doing is getting posted online to their website and to X. You know, they're bringing the receipts, they're bringing everything, they're showing, look, this is what we found, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, you get the corporate press and the mainstream news, they continually say, there's nothing on the website. Even though this past weekend, I made several screen recordings of me going and scrolling through the entire website, showing everybody what it is. I'm sure I just threw it up there, right? I've done that in post-production, if you will. Like, I didn't think to do that until just now when I was talking about that. I might as well throw it up there. But that, essentially, that's on their website. And they're saying, you go to their website and there's nothing there. Except for exactly everything that they're doing. Exactly what you've been railing about. And then, they have access to your personal data. And so do many other federal employees. So what at this point? As if that is supposed to be some sort of, like, gotcha. Like, oh, we're going to have him stop. We're going to get mad because they have access to your personal data. Like, who cares? That's not what they're going in for, by the way. They're not going in to access your personal data. They're going in to make it run more efficient and find wasteful spending. So just because they have access to my personal data doesn't mean that they are accessing my personal data. That's something like, I wish this channel was more popular. I wish I could get it on CNN when they start talking about this and just tell these people, what in the F are you talking about? Of course, they're going to have access. They got to get into the computer systems. But just because they have the access doesn't mean they're actually accessing your personal data. And so what if they did? What are they going to do about it, right? If something happens, we know the first place to look. I mean, think about that for a second. That's the argument they're coming up with. They're accessing your personal data. For what reason? So they can steal your identity? Well, hang on. We know that Doge just accessed your data. So who do you think we're going to go look for? The culprit, right? We're going to go to them first, as a matter of fact. So it makes no sense to make that argument. But that's what they're doing, y'all. And then they've got other arguments, and we'll get into some of those. But let's get into this right quick. As Trump pledges to slash waste, critics say he's weakening watchdogs. Is that so? Let's see exactly what the new argument is on this. Check it out, though. President Donald Trump says his new Department of Government Efficiency is rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, but critics say the White House is weakening watchdogs intended to guard against corruption. Is that so? The White House has fired a number of federal employees charged with nonpartisan oversight and whistleblower protection in recent days. It comes as Doge implements sweeping changes and faces criticisms about the transparency of its actions. Now, you gotta love that. They've gotten rid of federal employees in charge of nonpartisan oversight and whistleblower protection. Well, you know what I would say to that? Look at some of the more recent whistleblowers that we've had come out, right? They have been retaliated against. And those very people are the ones that are supposed to stop retaliatory actions taken against whistleblowers. Obviously, they didn't do that, did they? They haven't been doing their job. So, you know what generally happens when you don't do your job? Sure, I don't have to say it. You don't drain the swamp by throwing the cleanup crew to the gators. And that's what's happening in the current administration, said the Government Accountability Project's legal director, Tom Devine, who has supported thousands of whistleblowers during his decades-long career. By firing the watchdogs, we're creating the breeding grounds for dramatically increased fraud, waste, and abuse. As a matter of fact, we're not. I mean, you can say that if you want to, but that doesn't mean it's true, does it? Because that's what Elon Musk is doing. Obviously, if this was your job to, find waste, fraud, and abuse, let me ask you, my guy, considering what we've found from Doge, what have y'all been doing for the past decades? Exactly what have y'all been doing? Because they're finding a lot of waste. Can't say they found much fraud yet. That they found one little bit of fraud, or at least it's something I would call fraud. Whoever it was, I forget their names. In the Homeland Security Department, they sent $59 million to hotels up in New York, luxury hotels at that, to house criminal aliens. It's like, this is absurd. That's waste right there. You can't do that, my guy. But, oh yeah, they're opening the door. It's breeding grounds for corruption, isn't it? Well, not if Doge has anything to say about it. They're just mad because they wanted to sit around and twiddle their thumbs all day and not do their job and just, let business as usual be conducted as business as usual, if you will. In the opening weeks of the Trump administration, Doge has directed dramatic cuts to the federal workforce and spending, prompting a flurry of lawsuits. The effort is spearheaded by billionaire Elon Musk, whose businesses have extensive federal contracts. Now, once again, you see what the AP is doing right here? You see what they're doing? You see the game that they're playing, the manipulative game that they play? They're trying to inform you that Elon Musk has extensive contracts with the government, and he's over here cleaning up waste, fraud, and abuse. That's a bad thing. That's what they're trying to tell you. But it's not a bad thing because those are completely separate. But hey, who am I to say otherwise, right? I'm just a dude that reads the news. There's no controls against conflicts of interest by Mr. Musk under the current system, Devine said. Yes, and he can say that. There is a control, but, it's called Donald Trump. And if you don't like that, hey, that's fine. But the control is there. And as a matter of fact, with a news article I covered yesterday, I think it was yesterday, it may have been the other day. Days kind of blur at this point. But, Tesla had a $400 million contract, which, by the way, Harry Sissing was like, big breaking corruption news by the Trump administration. Elon Musk has a $400 million contract with the federal government for armored Teslas. And you know what happened? Because that's an apparent conflict of interest and that's breeding grounds for corruption. You know what happened? Trump canceled that contract, actually. So, hey, it is what it is, right? Reporters asked Musk about those concerns in an Oval Office press conference Tuesday. Musk insisted Doge's work is transparent, with updates regularly posted on X and a newly launched website. You can see everything that's going on, and you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious, Musk said. We would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest, Trump added. Those assurances come after the White House abruptly fired more than a dozen inspectors general last month. This week, 8 of those government watchdogs, including from the Department of Defense, Veterans Affairs, Human and Health and Human Services, State, Education, Agriculture, Labor, and the Small Business Administration, filed a lawsuit to get their jobs back. I don't know them, but some people thought that some were unfair or some were not doing the job. And it's a very standard thing to do, Trump said last month when asked about the firings. But we'll put people in there that will be very good. In their lawsuit, the IGs point out that since the 1980s, there has been a bipartisan consensus that it is improper for a new presidential administration to remove IGs en masse. It also notes that the president failed to provide advance notice to Congress or a detailed explanation for the terminations as required by law. So what? At this point, I really don't care. Y'all can come out and say it's against the law all you want. But the fact is it goes back to the president is in charge of the executive branch, right? He has the authority to fire people. Now, I understand there's a lot of nuance around this, but that power should ultimately reside with Donald Trump. If he sees a problem in the government, he sees the government is getting too bloated and wants to downsize his government, he most certainly should have a mechanism to do that. Right? If we got to take this to the Supreme Court, let's take it to the Supreme Court. However, this could end up blowing up in Democrats' face, because once they get this to the Supreme Court, that's going to give Trump the impetus to go ahead and fire a whole hell of a lot more people. And there ain't going to be nothing they can do about it at that point, because now we have precedent set. And yeah, most of the time, barring some other, extenuating circumstance to a certain situation, a precedent is usually law of the land at this point. It's not the be-all, end-all, but, the precedent holds, carries a lot of weight, in other words. He has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to, said Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, in a recent briefing. On Tuesday, the White House also fired the U.S. Agency for International Development's Inspector General Paul Martin one day after his office released a report concluding that the administration's rapid downsizing effort is hurting USAID's ability to safeguard taxpayer-funded humanitarian aid. Martin also raised oversight concerns under the Biden administration. Once again, this is more media manipulation right there. Oh, he's not partisan at all because he raised concerns under the Biden administration. Well, you know what? Considering all the nonsense waste payments that we found the USAID was conducting and handing out, yeah, that guy was not doing his job at all, and he should be fired. That's like, this is going to blow up in Democrats' face, because those coming in and finding all this nonsense, that's going to make us turn around and look at these IGs like, this was y'all's job. What the hell have y'all been doing this whole time? Playing Tetris or something? All right, playing Minesweeper? A lot of older people will get that reference, by the way. Specifically, USAID's existing oversight controls, albeit with previously identified shortcomings, are now largely non-operational given these recent directives and personnel actions, the report said. So what? How does that affect my life at this point, right? How does that affect anybody's life? Because we know for a fact that Donald Trump did not pause humanitarian assistance. Any humanitarian assistance that was scheduled to go out is going out. They're not stopping any of that. They're stopping all this nonsense. And Democrats in the corporate press, they keep calling these programs that Musk is uncovering humanitarian aid, because they keep saying, oh, well, Trump is blocking humanitarian aid. So to them, that must be humanitarian aid. A gender studies program in Uganda or something like that. It's like, no. Why are we funding DEI initiatives in the Congo, for crying out loud? It's like, why are we doing that? But they call that humanitarian aid at this point, because that's what they've been calling it. So, hey, that's what I'm going to continue accusing them of calling DEI initiatives humanitarian aid. The language of the left, y'all got to be careful about how they use words. A government watchdog still on the job launched a new audit Friday. The Treasury Department's Office of Inspector General announced it will look into security concerns from Democrats surrounding DOJ's access to the payment system, as well as allegations of fraudulent payments from the Trump administration. Oh, go right ahead, buddy. Meanwhile, another legal battle is playing out over the attempted firing of Hampton Dellinger, the head of the Office of Special Counsel, which is charged with guarding the federal workforce from illegal personal actions such as retaliation for whistleblowing. Once again, my guy, we've seen several whistleblowers over the past 4 years get retaliated upon. Almost every administration has a whistleblower that gets retaliated against. Almost all of them, including the Trump administration. Like some more than others, but pretty much all of them, from what I can tell. A federal judge temporarily reinstated Dellinger, but the Justice Department appealed. The White House didn't answer follow-up questions about the termination, and the DOJ didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Now, I love that right there, because that's another one of those manipulative tactics that the corporate press uses. They didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. You know what that could be? That could be somebody with the AP or whatever sending, I don't know, Caroline Levitt a text message and waiting 5-10 seconds and not getting a response. They could have responded. I'm just saying that the way they word that, that's what that means. They didn't immediately. Okay, so what? Like, why even put that in there at this point? Oh, it's to manipulate you, saying that they didn't want to talk about it. That they know they're guilty because their silence proves it, right? That's what that portrays. And that's part of the media manipulation that I just love pointing that kind of stuff out. This is an outstanding public servant who personifies what President Trump said he's committed to fighting, and he's being purged without explanation. There's something very wrong with this picture, Devine said. You gotta love these people. Oh, he's the personification of what Trump wants. Is that so? Well, then how come he got fired? How come these people haven't been doing their job? How come it took Elon Musk and Doge to come in to find and uncover and bring to light all this nonsense, this waste and abuse? Why? That's what these people's jobs were. That's what they do 24/7. That's what they're supposed to audit these places. They're supposed to come in to make sure that these partisan political appointees aren't, being partisan, that they're being fair with the federal government. That's what they're there for, to keep everything in check, to keep partisan politics from playing a role. But obviously, as we can see with the last 4 years under Joe Biden, there's obviously a lot. It's almost exclusively partisan politics, or it has been with the federal government. And we don't want those people at the upper management levels and the mid management levels that conducted the raid on Mar-a-Lago, that went around to city to city to city, finding January 6th the peaceful protesters, people that weren't violent, people that didn't even go in the building. Right? Those people going around like Mark Houck, going and arresting Mark Houck, who defended his son against the violent leftists. Those people, the prosecutors that decided to bring charges against that guy. It's absurd. We've got way too many partisan hacks in our federal government. They need to be purged. Not only that, but the federal government is way too big, way too bloated, and needs a bit of Ozempic, if you will. They need some downsizing, y'all. We need to put them on a training regimen. They need, to eat right, sleep good, and exercise. That's what the federal government needs right now. And Doge is absolutely giving them a run for their money. I'm loving what Doge is doing. Can't wait till they get to the DOD, as a matter of fact. I kind of want to see what the DOE, the Department of Energy, want to see what they're doing as well, because they do a lot of underhanded crap, if you will. I see news articles from time to time discussing the DOE, and it's like, there's something fishy going on with the Department of Energy, but that's a video for another time. I'm running long on this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Blows my mind, y'all. Just outright. That they're like, well, this is our job, but we're getting fired. Now there's going to be a lot of waste, fraud, and corruption going on over here. Like, come on. We all know, we all have eyes. People that pay attention to politics, we can see. You haven't been doing your job, obviously, or we would have found all this nonsense. But, hey, they can make whatever argument they want to make. Doesn't mean it's the right argument, and it doesn't mean it's true. But like I said, y'all, that's all I got for this one. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And subscribe if you're new around here. But y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.